Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We are offering this today as part of a Path of a Magdalena program. And this is a no-cost offering from Magdalena Healing. And each month we explore a different quality of Mary Magdalena. So through this offering, you receive an email with an interview with one of our Magdalena practitioners on the specific quality of the month. There's different inquiry questions, engagement on social media, and we have this live event where we bring together Magdalena practitioners to speak specifically about our quality of the month. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If it's not your first time, welcome back. We're so happy you're joining us again. And this month, we are exploring the quality of compassion. And I was just speaking with our panelists before the call. I don't know if this is the most important or we don't, put them on a scale here, but this is such a special quality for Mary Magdalena because it was such a core piece of her work and her legacy. And at Magdalena Healing, compassion is really key for us. So I'm grateful to be joined by some of our Magdalena practitioners today. So you all know Lisa. If you've been on here, you know Lisa. She's been with us for all the qualities. Lisa Guinan joining us from Ireland. And we also have Margaret from Ireland and Isabel from London. So welcome. And let's jump right in. Oh, one thing. If you all want it, please engage throughout. So whether you're watching live or it's not live, you're watching a recording, please let us know your thoughts. So, type something in the chat. I'll throw out some questions. Do it to share, yeah. And others will gain so much from sharing too. So engage as much as you wish throughout. Okay, so let's start today. Just could someone share what is compassion to you? Just let us know a little bit about what that quality is.
Yeah, I'm happy to kick off, Cara. Great to be here again. So, compassion for me, well, for starters, there's certain times that we will activate the quality of compassion. It's not when somebody's having a great time or we're admiring them. It's when somebody's having a difficult time or suffering in some way, or somebody is being the person who is creating the suffering or the problems for other people who we might step in and judge them. So for me, it's really meeting the person where they're at. So there's that point of contact, that point of empathy, where I can put myself in the shoes of the other and relate. It's like a bridge. I can relate to what's going on with them. And once I make that point of contact, it's then moving. For me, I have to be fully present and I have to be in my heart. That's what takes me into compassion. Like as soon as I judge, I'm in my mind, I'm out. It's not possible to be compassionate from my mind. I have to be in my heart. So I have to be fully present to whatever is happening to them at that time without judgment. And then it's opening my heart and holding a space within my heart, holding a space of love, I call it, so that the other can somehow find that inside, somehow find their way home to finding that inside of them. So there you go.
And Lisa, when you share about judgment there, for me, I think it's so easy to judge that this shouldn't be happening. Like if I am either in a state of compassion for myself or from the other, I can't also be saying, oh, but this shouldn't be. Like if someone's hurt or if someone's dying, that's always my first, or historically had been, like, why is this happening? Like, this shouldn't be the case. And when I moved to that space for me, that judgment takes me out of compassion and being present with the person in the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Cara. It's like accepting, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
being fully present to as what is in that moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. What is rather than what we would like it to be. And what I think is powerful is the impact that compassion can have either on everyone really involved in the situation. Does anyone have something they could share about their own experience with either offering or receiving compassion?
Yes, Cara, I can take up on that.
Yeah.
And as I've been listening to both of you, my own example has just deepened and become more present. And it was in relation to my son, who had a very long ongoing skin condition. And I was so involved with trying to help and taking him here and there to medical, non-medical people, that and feeling overwhelmed that I was not really able to be present with what it meant for him. I was more concerned with trying to help. And in that was the perfect example of not being present and not being available to what was going on. And also in that place of, this shouldn't be happening every time we went for a new treatment or a different thing. It should have resolved, or it should have changed. And it came to a head. He was hospitalized then at one point, and the evening he came home from hospital, I was at the kitchen sink washing, and he was standing behind. And just in a moment, it was like the energy of compassion became very alive in the field between the two of us. And I just felt this tremendous sense of, wow, what a journey he's been on. But it wasn't overwhelming. It was like it suddenly just dropped into me. And at the same time, it felt like as if he standing behind me in the field of this enormous field of compassion, as if he was actually holding me in that moment. So for me, that energy of compassion is like, it was in that moment just greater than either of us. And it was present. It was just never maybe allowed or acknowledged. And it happened in that moment. And yeah, and to me, it came to mind when I heard about the quality and this invitation today. And thankfully today he's completely well. I think that was a turning point. And he changed his life and himself, and it went on to a new career, and that changed everything. His confidence grew, and the condition just dissolved away. So it was very much that example of, I was in the way of compassion because I didn't want to see him suffering, and I felt helpless. Yeah. And that moment of grace where compassion just made itself evident.
I'd love to just add to that, Margaret. It's just so touching when I hear you speaking. And, you know, what I'm really becoming aware of, like really only really understanding it fully recently, is that, you know, all these qualities of the heart, it's like gratitude. It's like I'm trying to give my heart to somebody, be thankful for something. And the more I give of myself, the more I fill up. And to me, devotion is like that as well. The more I try and give myself to something greater than myself, the more I get filled with grace. And compassion, the same, being something that's so seated in the heart, exactly like you're saying, that the more I move into a state of compassion and hold that for the other, the more I feel this support that I'm being held, even though I'm the one holding, but behind me suddenly something comes in and I'm being held. So it's that amazing ability of the heart again, that the more we give, the more we're filled, the more we receive, and that the giving and receiving is the same thing, and how really healing that is for us as human beings to be able to come into this state where the more we give, the more we receive. It's just so, sometimes I think this is what will really bring us all, put all the pieces back together for us as humanity.
Yeah, Lisa, when you were sharing, what I kind of see as a visual is that when our heart is open, we have support we have so much support, and that when we judge a situation like it shouldn't happen or whatever thought process we have, that's kind of like a blockade between that support coming through, whether from another individual or from ourselves. Yeah. That, did I interpret that right?
Perfect. And perfect to me.
Yeah.
You all said such a key words for compassion. You know, when you ask about the heart and energy of the heart, about the presence and about the absence of judgment, but also the grace, the grace that you mentioned, you know, because for me, compassion is that grace that suddenly takes over the heart, you know. If you are there and you just drop everything, you just drop any resistance, you just drop any shouldn't be like that, or well, she shouldn't say that, or she shouldn't behave like that. You just drop everything and allow the heart to be there, to be present, to take you over if you want. Then that grace becomes absolute compassion, you know. I see it now with my mother now, you know. My mother is 95, is getting to the very end of her life, and we are 8 siblings. And there are a lot of discussions because we don't agree about what to do or what not to do, how to take care of her or whatever. So when the discussions get heated, the only place that brings us together, the only place where we really can open our heart and to say, but this is not about us, it's about her, is that moment in which we drop it. We just drop it. No, okay, what do you want? That, yeah, no, I go with you. And you, what do you want? And you, what is the only way that we can mediate? Is the only way that we can find common ground. And that grace takes over.
And for when I think about how compassion is most meaningful in my life, I think of very difficult times. So my dad passed away unexpectedly several years ago. And I think about people that came to me with compassion during that time. And I think about, this was several years ago. I will never forget how they showed up with me, for me with compassion. And there's a distinct difference, you know. I had friends who just stood with me. I had friends who did things, you know, what do you need? I'll pick that up. I'll meet you. And the situation was my dad was actually in Florida when this happened and no one was there. And I had a very old friend from high school that was in Florida. And the way that this person showed up for me, I hadn't talked to them in 10 years. Whatever I needed, they were there. And then I think of the people who, not intentionally, but would say things like, I can't even imagine, you must feel like you're going to die, like these things. And I'm like, whoa, that's not helpful right now. And I don't say that from a place of judgment. I just say it from how much that served me when people were with me in compassion during really difficult moments. It's what helped move me through. It's what got me to the other side. And I think the core component was being present and open. They were present for me. They weren't running away because they were scared. They were there even when it was hard, and nights were hard, you know, like nighttime was really hard for me. And I would just call people in the middle of the night and they would pick up the phone and that's all I needed. So I also want people to know, for me, it's not like a grand gesture. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It's just being present and with someone in really difficult moments. And that makes such a big difference for the person on the other side.
Such a good point, Cara. And, you know, because we often hear this happening as well, like death is one of the things, and the other one might be, say, somebody suddenly gets a cancer diagnosis. I know people in this situation, and especially if it's a younger person. And if the people around aren't able to be with what's happening, like some people just can't, they don't know how to be with death, and they don't know how to be with a cancer diagnosis, you know, which may be leading in that direction. And if, you know, when we don't have the capacity to be with that inside of ourselves, it's not possible to be present to that inside of the other. You know, and as I'm speaking now, I'm thinking it's actually helping me to have compassion for people who can't be there, the people who run away when you get the cancer diagnosis, right. People who run away, you know, they just haven't got the capacity to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm getting goosebumps now, just realizing this as I'm speaking, you know. And also the gift of, you know, and I'll say as well, that the time when my mother got seriously, seriously ill, and I wasn't comfortable up to that point with being around people in Syria. We thought she was, you know, we thought she was at the end. It was very, very full on. I didn't have that capacity before that happened to my mother. But because I had so much love in my heart for my mother, and I knew I had to hold it for her, and I had to be in my heart. And that love for her was what allowed me to be able to step into this totally new situation and be present for her. And that was like the gift that my mother gave to me, because after that, I was able to be with people with the cancer diagnosis. I was able to be fully present to them and walk with them. And since then, I'm just so comfortable. I'm able to hold that space. And so it was through that love for my mother that gave me that capacity. Before that, I didn't have the capacity. So there's always a gift. There's always a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the gift is returning to you, as for instance, you said, Cara, before, that something that happened to you many years ago and you didn't forget it because we're so full of compassion. I have the same experience so many years ago, nearly 20 years ago, how the people on a plane, the staff of the plane, the crew, how they hold me in the middle of a horrible panic attack, you know, and I remember that so deeply in my heart still. But also because that they did, as you were commenting, Lisa, facilitate me to get into my own dignity, you know, to hold my own panic attack, to be there and stand the pain, the shaking, all the things that happens, you know. So by doing that, by providing that, you also give the other person the opportunity to find themselves, to find that place in their own little heart to say, okay, everything is okay, and I am going through this, you know.
And for those who are watching, comment in the chat if you wish. What does it feel like when someone shows up to you in full compassion in really difficult moments? Like, what's one word that describes what you're left with? Like Isabella sharing 20 years ago, I'm sharing how many years ago, all of us share. There was a very difficult point in our lives. And when someone showed up in compassion, that made an impact for the rest of our life. So here at Magdalena Healing, we're kind of all about that. We want to create that for ourselves, for our community, and for the world. And it's through compassion, but it's through many other qualities of Mary Magdalena. Our goal is to really create a balance on the planet, a balance of the masculine and the feminine, and bring these different qualities, these frequencies of Mary Magdalena. And we do this through community, and we do this through practice. And yeah, that's what we want. I'm just thinking, like, if all of us can leave a legacy, like how those people showed up for Isabella on the plane, or how my friends and family showed up for me, and how Margaret's team showed up for her and her son, and same for Lisa with her mom. Like, we want to be those people. So, ladies, anything else? I see we're getting to the end of the time. I know it always goes so fast, but I want to give the opportunity for anyone to share anything else that they really want before we complete for the day.
I'd like to add one thing. When the question came of compassion, I just asked Mary Magdalene about compassion, and I had an image of the last teaching, of what I would call the last teaching of Christ to her at the cross. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. That was Christ's last teaching in that moment. And that, now listening to you all, that was the gift, the bridge that brought her forward into her mission. I think it's the energy that carried her in a boat with no sails across the Mediterranean into the south of France. It's what allowed her to carve her own path when the apostles rejected her as the person who had the teachings, you know. So that gift of forgive them, they know not what they do, in moments when it's difficult, when we're in the receiving end of maybe some cruelty.
Even the moment when she's stoned and she thinks, you know, as we read in the book, that she says, no, I didn't reject them, I didn't push them against, and they were stoning her. And still she was understanding them.
Yeah, I think the core piece of that teaching for me is, had Mary Magdalena moved into judgment, she would have been stuck, and they shouldn't have. Nobody should have done this. This shouldn't happen. And that thought process is so familiar for me. There's like a righteousness in it too. And I'm not saying that this should have happened or shouldn't have. I'm just saying when we get into that thinking, then we can't move forward.
Exactly.
So in order for Mary Magdalena to fulfill her mission, and really look at us 2,000 years later, and when we speak of Mary Magdalena, just for anyone who's new, this is not just about Catholicism. This is the legacy of a woman who walked the planet as a master. So it's not tied to a specific religion, but we have all these examples from Catholicism that we see. And so had Mary not been able to move into compassion beyond judgment and past that, she wouldn't have been able to continue her mission, and her mission that extends to today. That's a great point. That's a great teaching. Lisa, any last words from the OG here?
The only last thing, just what's coming to me as we're speaking as well, is like, you know how we speak about these qualities every month, but I always find that like one quality is supported by another quality, or another quality leads into another quality, or they come together and like they're like friends. And you know what I'm really realizing now is the courage. It takes courage to be compassionate. It takes courage to be with whatever is happening, usually a difficult situation, to be fully present to it in your heart. It takes courage. So I would say that courage is one of those those qualities that are essential to a lot of the time for us to move into a state of compassion, as well as acceptance and openness and being in the heart.
Yeah. That's why Lisa's the master of so many of the qualities. She brings them all together for us.
Don't mind her. Para's the queen.
So, hey, thank you all so much for joining us today. We look at a different quality of Mary Magdalena every month, so please continue to join us. Engage with us on social media. If you like this content, give us a thumbs up, like it, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow and continue our work here. So thank you all so much. Bye.